Hello and welcome. We're here to review the new movie Ready Player One.
Directed by Steven Spielberg, based on the best-selling novel. No, it was pretty popular.
Yeah, I hadn't really heard of it until they said they were going to make a movie about it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
though I've never paid much attention to the realm of books anyway. Anywho, I've read the book. You two have not. And so what do we all think then?
I was keeping my expectations pretty low from the trailers. I don't know what you guys are thinking. It's been many entries since I've been too impressed from Spielberg's adventure fantasy films.
Mm-hmm. What was the last one you'd say you really enjoyed from him?
From his
In the
action adventure fantasy. I have to have the list in front of me. I was disappointed by Tintin. I know you guys really like Tintin.
That one's definitely not perfect, but I do enjoy it for what it is.
Like the last real great one was probably Minority Report, I guess.
No,
but
definitely, yeah.
I do have a soft spot for War of the Worlds because it looks really great. The effects are great.
I may have forgotten that one was Spielberg.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, most of his 2000s action movies, excluding Minority Report probably, which I'd put that one on a higher level. I'd put in a not perfect by any means, but still enjoyable. That I can enjoy Crystal Skull. I know a lot of people don't, but then
it's a guilty pleasure kind of.
And I know we enjoy BFG more than you, I believe. But yeah, I'd put this one in that same realm. Really, that very enjoyable for what it is, but yeah, not a perfect movie by any means.
Mm-hmm. And what I was meant to be leading into when I mentioned the trailer was that it did exceed my expectations from the trailer.
Okay.
I got sucked in a little more than I was worried about.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's get into plot, I guess.
Okay.
Well, it's 2045, I guess, and people are still obsessed with the 80s.
Yep.
It's kind of depresses me that people are still obsessed with the 80s.
It's believable though, right?
Yeah.
I'd buy it.
Yeah, kind of one of those, like, is that really where things are going?
You see how obsessed people are with nostalgia and oh, I understand that reference and stuff like that. That I was shocked that this movie had so many naysayers because I'm like, isn't that what everyone does anyway? That if you understand the reference they're talking about, then you just explode on Twitter or whatever. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, so follows a young man. Do they say his age in the movie?
No, they don't.
Did they say his age in the book?
Yeah, he's supposed to be like just about out of high school. That we'll go into that a little bit more, but yeah, the book and the movie like have many things in common, but then they change so much, or don't even mention things that I feel like should have gotten a brief mention. That part of the story takes place with him in school and goes into that. But anyway, we keep interrupting the synopsis.
We need to explain the Oasis. That
it's this magical place where you can do anything and be anyone you could ever want to be.
It was invented in 2020s in this universe that it essentially becomes so popular that it's basically the world's economy all runs through this game. And
I felt they could have hit that a little better too, just explained it a little more.
Just VR experience, basically the ultimate world.
That's what everyone's doing. Yeah. That's what everyone's obsessed with, because the real world is in such a bad place. People just want to escape they want to get away from it all and live their fantasies.
Yeah, they never really explained like how bad a place the world was in, or if just the Oasis made the world such a bad place because nobody's paying attention to the world.
I felt like they could have hit those beats a lot more.
This could have been a much deeper movie, but they went more just the fun, entertaining, lighter tone.
Whimsy.
Which if that's what you're going for, then yeah, that's fine. If that's what you want to do, just I was personally hoping that they would touch on those subjects more than they did, but yeah, it doesn't kill the movie or anything.
But yeah, so the creator of this Oasis died a few years prior to where this movie begins, and upon his death, he issued a challenge.
Willy Wonka style.
Yeah. To inherit this big $1 trillion company, there's these challenges in the game to collect keys to unlock the ownership of the company, I guess. So everyone's doing this because it's a $1 trillion company. Anybody can really get to it if they win the challenges. So it's become an obsession of a few people, and our main character, Wade Watts, is one of those people who is obsessed with finding the keys.
And in part is also obsessed with the creator, James Halliday, who created the Oasis based on his love for, the nostalgia of the 80s and really anything. And they touch on 90s and current stuff too. But to crack these puzzles and find these hidden keys that you really need to know your stuff to study what the creator loves and what inspired him, and again the book went into that a little more than the movie. But for one thing, I was very impressed with this movie visually. I wasn't ever expecting it to look real because it does all take place in a virtual world. So if it tends to look a little video gamey, I thought that was fine because it's a video game world, so it kind of makes sense. But there's so much going on and so much of the movie that it's really what you'd call a visual feast for the eyes. I thought.
Yeah.
Saw it in 3D. 3D is always so hit and miss for me. Of course, I don't know how 3D affects us, if just having glasses and putting glasses over those glasses kind of takes away from that.
I felt like I noticed some depth throughout the entire thing.
Definitely, yeah. But
yeah, I didn't notice too much just because I felt like the movie was so active with all the depth and visuals that I was just so enthralled with that, but it didn't feel like the 3D was actually working. Just all of it felt like just the movie was visually well created.
And I always love it when things pop out and it feels like it's about to hit you in the face or whatever. That animated movies tend to do that a lot better than live action, I've always noticed. But there have been very many instances before in live action 3D where, like you'll flinch because something's flying out at you or something will be floating in front of your face, and didn't get a whole lot of that here, but it was still noticeable in a few scenes. Like I mentioned that the movie is very different from the book, and I think I'll stop there with comparing the two because it's very funny because they are very similar. Like the initial setup, like the first 10 minutes when it's showing him and where he lives in the stacks, which is just stacks and stacks of RVs and trailers on top of each other because um, of overpopulation, which again something they didn't really hit on too well in the movie.
Overpopulation in Ohio, no less.
Yep. Uh-huh. But yeah, like when they were setting up the real world and then going into the main premise of the Easter egg hunt and the virtual world, like that initial setup is straight from the book, but then like once you get into like where it starts out with this big race, then that's when like they're just doing their own thing with the movie that I felt like if they would have taken a little more time to build up where the character is in life and
Because they jumped straight into the race.
that it takes a long time before anyone even finds the first key or knows that you can even find the first key, that it's even possible, that the movie starts out, we know where it is, we just can't get to it because this race is so difficult. And I felt like it simplified it a little bit, but then you get this race, which was probably the best action scene in the movie. It was kind of funny having the best scene like in the first 15 minutes or so, but I mean, I need to watch that on repeat. There was so much going on, and it was for the most part one tracking shot, wasn't it? Like a majority of it anyway.
I forgot to even pay attention.
But there's so much going on because it's hard to keep track of.
Because it's so much virtual cinematography too. So sometimes I don't notice it as much when it's virtual cinematography.
But Spielberg's been a big fan in the past with, like, 1010 has a lot of those good shots, and even War of the Worlds too, and I'm sure a few others. But so talking about the cast, I thought standouts were Olivia Cooke, who plays the main girl Artemis in the Oasis. That I thought she was excellent. And Ben Mendelsohn, who plays the villain, I thought he was very entertaining as that swarmy businessman type, and I enjoyed the design of his Oasis avatar too. I wish that his avatar could have been in the movie a little more, because I just like the idea of like taking just his own persona, just this kind of plain businessman with a suit, and then just kind of roid him up so he's like this giant businessman.
And it kind of, when it first popped up, it was like, well, that shows just how puffed up he is, that his avatar is pretty much just him, but looking all big and tough.
And I liked how you could see that actor in that avatar, even though it looked very different too. And that's how it was for most of the motion capture for the avatars. But T.J. Miller's IROC character, I was also surprised that I enjoyed him very much.
They knew how to use him right, because most of the time
I've never been a fan.
Yeah, obnoxious.
I've always found him very obnoxious.
But then like this in Big Hero 6, he's one of the funniest characters. So.
Yeah. And I thought Ty Sheridan was a decent lead. That he was definitely good in the movie, but I felt that some of the characters overshadowed him a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Mark Rylance as the creator was also pretty good too.
Yeah, there's a whole segment in the film where they go inside the movie The Shining,
which none of us have seen for obvious reasons if you've watched any of our past reviews.
Not much horror movie buffs we are not.
Not that I get scared of them, just I normally don't enjoy watching those type of movies.
Just like I can enjoy suspense and intense stuff just when it seems like too, I don't know if joyless would be the word, but just too
It's
gross
just
out.
checklist of killing off every character you're introduced to, basically, is why I don't like horror movies typically. But
And just doing too much weird stuff, usually that.
Which most horror movies tend to do also.
But yeah, so they go into The Shining. Not that they replicate that by killing off all the characters while they're in The Shining, but
there's a lot of intense imagery.
Yeah.
And more adult images also. That younger viewers should be warned about. That sadly this wouldn't be a movie you could just bring most of the family to for a more lighthearted action film.
A little edgier than your normal Marvel movies. But about the same level as Guardians 2, probably.
Yeah. I'd say so.
Only did this one have an F word? I think.
Yeah, this one did.
When another horror icon showed up in the film.
Which that was a little humorous, but kind of dumb at the same time.
It was cool to see the Iron Giant back in something.
Yeah.
One of the main references that I got. Yeah, speaking of the references, I was personally expecting a lot more from that. Like just for it to be like a little more in your face, which I'm not saying that would be better or anything, but I was surprised at the subtlety we kind of got. That most of it's just in the background, just if you can spot it for the half second it's there.
And even like with the Iron Giant, like I was hoping for a little more build up or depth or something. It was mostly just like, oh, that person's there for not a whole lot of reason.
Yeah.
Just, oh well.
For it to feel a little more natural.
One thing I noticed that I thought was a little strange for the style it decided to take was that in the video game world, when somebody'd get punched, like there'd be over-the-top sound effects and stuff, and it made sense because it's a video game.
Oh, I know where you're going.
And then when they get into the real world and there's fight scenes and they're punching, it still has the same over-the-top sound effects. And then there's like, when somebody winks, there's like a ding sound in the real world. And I'm like,
Like, I felt like there should have been a little more contrast between the real world and the video game. Like have the real world feel more grim and depressing.
Give it more of the Minority Report flair, where that's a very gritty movie. Of course, I'm not saying not that gritty, but just feeling a little more real.
And like some of the stuff that happened in the real world, like with all the like when characters would first meet and like all the different people coming together, I was just like, would that really happen if this was real, that all the characters would just come together like that? And, oh well.
And that, like where Wade lives and the bad guy's place and where the kind of rebellion against the bad guys is stationed, like are all within a few blocks of each other almost when they're looking at it, the cityscape,
which again is more simplified for the movie. But just I felt like the ending started getting a little cheesy, like in the real world stuff when it was wrapping up.
They kept opening the doors of the
over
and over again,
and all the different people talking to him and like, oh, you won this and stuff. And just like,
it didn't quite work for me.
No!
Oh no! Weren't we just saying that this is one where everyone dies at the end?
Yeah. So, yeah, for scoring, when I saw the trailers again, I didn't have high expectations, but I thought, best case scenario, probably an 8 out of 10 movie. That's probably what I'll give it, 8 out of 10.
Okay.
That's a little generous, but I feel like I don't really feel like giving it much lower or any higher than that, so I guess that's what I'll give it 8 out of 10.
Alright. And I'll give it a 7 out of 10 because I did have quite a bit of anticipation for this one. Felt didn't feel let down, just felt like we could have gotten a little more out of it. And book expectations don't help at all in almost any instance anyways.
I've learned from experience that's good probably not to read the book beforehand unless you watch the movie or not. Still, that counts as not reading the book beforehand, but yeah. If you watch the movie and people say the book's better, then I might read the book after the movie, but then I know all the spoilers, so you don't get the full book experience either. But whatever.
And this was the rare instance where I even read a book, so it doesn't happen too often. But.
I guess I'll say 7.5. Just
going right in the middle, like
right
always.
in the
We
middle.
should. We need to remember to have you go first.
The last
problem-
few times we put the pressure on him, so
The problem is that this, and I'm getting tired of this happening, but just it seems like a lot of the big movies that I'm looking forward to, like when I see them, I really like them, but at the same time, I don't really have much of an opinion, so it's hard to rate. So
that's how it happened.
Yeah, and I'm getting a little sad because like
you want something to blow your socks off.
I've
been there.
I used to get wowed so easily, but then it seemed like last year just I hit a brick wall or something.
No, same.
Anything, it's just kind of like
last year was a little dull.
That was good, but
there were a few highlights, but yeah, like. Because I think 2016 spoiled us a little bit because it seemed like there were so many, especially the Disney output, that I was getting like wowed by, and then 17 was it had good ones for sure, but so many of like just the blockbusters. I'm like, that's it. Okay, but yeah.
I had thought of an analogy for it to kind of explain why I felt like some of the stuff I wasn't able to get into as much as I wanted to, just in the light of like some of the like open world video games that I've played. There'll be a start point where you're getting to know all the world and the quirks of everything and the characters' backstories and stuff like that. When you don't know anything, so you're just wandering around figuring everything out. But then once you've leveled up and have found locations and stuff, you can fast travel. And sometimes I feel like I need to stop fast traveling because it kind of jumping from one place to another just to further the storyline. I don't get to see as much of the world. I felt like this movie kind of threw you into the fast travel section of the world without really letting you see and explore much of it. So it was just kind of like jumping from one place to another to further the plot, but which is good. But yeah,
It's already 2.5 hours long.
and it's weird because part of me thinks they should have had more wandering around, exploring, and figuring things out beforehand. But then so much of the figuring things out involving the keys, I thought dragged out for a while.
Montages. That's why you have montages. A quick 3-minute segment of dozens of different places and worlds, and which they did have in the beginning, but needed a little more of that in the middle too.
It could have been interesting if before they all the characters teamed up and stuff, if like each of them like were kind of in their own separate planets or worlds or something, and so then you would go back and forth from a few different places. I felt like
more of that's in the book.
I felt like a lot of the having different worlds or planets kind of blended together and didn't seem as eye-catching as I was hoping. But, oh well.
So yeah, this movie had a lot of great visuals, visual flair,
Very much so.
and few enjoyable performances. a lot of fun to be had, but maybe a little messy and could have been,
Streamlined in some places and fleshed out in more places.
Mhm.
yeah,
Oddly enough.
More well sculpted.
difficult to imagine how you would do a movie like this since
Ugh.
it's
I can't even.
we're not filmmakers and we don't want to pretend like we could perfect these movies
And
because we
we-
couldn't.
All we
not,
can do is pick at them.
we don't know as much of the pop culture that this was centered around.
That
with the
too.
80s.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So either some people will find more enjoyment out of it, or they'll just be put off from the very beginning and just think of it as tacky or a cash grab or something. So maybe there's a very limited audience that will truly enjoy the movie. I don't know.
But we thought it was good for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely a good one to see on the big screen because
Mhm.
there are very theater worthy visuals here. The end battle was also very entertaining too.
That's about all we got, guys. We'll see you later.